Hello, Vinai.
Hi, it's been a while.
It has been
Just
a
checked. We
while.
last recorded with us two speaking more than a year ago. Time flies.
November 2022 was the last Talking Hyvä catch up between the two of us. We did have a couple of episodes on specific launches or product previews, but our last official catch up was 2022. I guess it's kind of difficult when we speak so much on a regular basis. The whole thing started with you hadn't even joined Hyvä yet when we did this the first time, and I was just telling you as a interested outsider what I was doing with Hyvä when it was just me. And then it
Yep.
switched to you being part of Hyvä, and then it became more irregular. And then now it's kind of weirder to between us talk about Hyvä updates while we both kind of know, but we decided to do a 2023 review, year-end review, which will be fun to just look back and see what happened last year, and
Mm.
just I guess let it sink in what we accomplished last year, because we don't I personally don't reflect that much on I'm just looking forward all of the time, you know. How about you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Same. I'm curious to hear what things you thought of, which might be nice to mention and talk about and highlight. I got a couple of things naturally since we do different things in day to day, but very related. They'll be slightly different. And yeah, I'm really curious because so much has happened.
Yeah, there's a couple of obvious things for people that look at Hyvä at a regular basis or watch our presentations that we give at conferences and such. And I usually, when I go to a conference and I give a presentation, it's so far it's been on the technical track, but it becomes more and more of a business talk, because I just basically tell about products that we release and like the results and company growth and some numbers. And it's fun to look back. Like if I look back at the presentations, at the slides that through the year, and I see that I always put in this graph from build with public data of live sites, and every time I create my new slides, I update the numbers, and it's nice to reflect on the previous presentations where it was a lower number, obviously. So that's pretty cool. The last time we checked, well, I check very regularly how many sites are live according to BuildWith. But we're currently over 2,600 live stores on BuildWith. And I think we sent out a Christmas card in December with our yearly accomplishments with some of those numbers, and we said 2,200 live sites. And I don't know, at the beginning of last year, it was probably well over 1,000, because that milestone was hit before last year, but it must have been somewhere in the low 1,000 region. And it's grown steadily, which is really cool. Also to see
Just for context, so we sent that out in December and we're recording this mid-January, so not too long ago.
Yeah.
Another 400 more, bam!
Yeah, and what's cool about looking at those trends, or like the data from BuildWith, they collect company data, and it's all roughly like some makes sense, some doesn't. They look at the traffic that a site has and what their visitor, like their the popularity of the site or the traffic that they get, and the technology spend and the social media exposure and everything, and they base a ranking on that. And I think it's mostly based on traffic. So they have like very high, and those are the top 10,000 stores in the e-commerce section that they rank, and then you have the top 100K and then the top 1 million. So those are the bigger e-commerce stores, and those higher segments are increasing more and more. So you see bigger and bigger stores being built on Hyvä now that we've gained the trust, and I think it makes a huge difference that we have all of these showcases that show major results happening on big brands. Like we had the Dunkin' Donuts showcase, which is a household name globally, which is pretty cool. And there's a couple of brands like that. Some global car brands that we may or may not mention and that are running on Hyvä. So yeah, that's cool stuff. It's cool to see that we're both doing well in the SMB region where we've established, and now also, of course, we will talk more about that in detail. But we have the enterprise product, Adobe Commerce compatibility, which really also opens up that top segment of the market. So that's cool. I guess that's the most usual time when I reflect on how things are going is when I'm preparing that data for a conference talk. And that's cool. We usually also talk about community members. Like now we have more than 4,000 people on our Slack, which is amazing. Over 660 agencies working with Hyvä in almost 70, I think 68, 69 countries. So that's that's enormous. It's almost hard to grasp, even for us, how big Hyvä has become. It's quite cool. Yeah, let's rewind to the beginning of last year, because I think we really started off with a big win. What do you think was the biggest thing that happened in January?
The biggest thing that happened in January? Oh man, putting me on the spot. In January, well, I'm guessing, but from my perspective, that was hiring new employees. Most impactful, that was Tin Lan Weber from formerly One Step Checkout. We left there and decided to join Hyvä, and it has been amazing working with her. She rocks.
Yeah.
Was that what you were referring to?
Absolutely, yeah. I think
Okay, good. Yeah, that made a huge
January
difference.
last year, we went from 6 to 8 people.
Yeah.
So let's go back. So
Something
obviously,
like
I was employee number 1, and then Frank and Willem
yeah,
Bogman
okay,
joined,
sorry.
and then you, that's 4. Sanne Bolkestein joined as number 5, and then along the way there, Danny, our designer, became more and more like. Initially,
okay.
I hired Danny just for contract work to do, like to rework our logo, and then he became more and more involved, and then at some point we just hired him as the well, not full time, but as a contractor for a set amount of hours.
Well, that's person 6 that you counted. Okay,
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah,
I did count Danny yet. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Makes sense.
And then Kilan and Anton, and both coming from One Step Checkout. We were working with them already in the year before because we were trying to build Hyvä Checkout together with One Step Checkout, and then I guess things are just not going that great at an organizational level at One Step Checkout. So it was a very hard collaboration, but the collaboration with Chilan and Anton was so good that we wanted to continue to work with them, and they joined us, and that's been fantastic. Anton's knowledge on just the checkout field, and all of his knowledge of the different payment providers and how to approach integrations and everything is pretty impressive. Yeah, Chinlan joining us as marketing and strategy VP. She made a huge impact. We were just counting before we started recording. I was looking at the amount of showcases that she wrote just in last year, and it's 11. So we have 12 showcases on our website now, which are very extensive. It's a lot of cool information there, not just like just a story behind the project, but also like the wins, like what impact Hyvä had, and percentages, or 2 times, 3 times conversion, whatever. And those have been really impactful, because often agencies come to us and say like, or a merchant comes to us and they say, well, what's the impact if I switch to Hyvä? What will it do for me? And of course, it's a question we can't answer. Like we can't predict how someone's business will be impacted by switching to Hyvä. It's hard to make a promise on performance or conversion, because it really depends on the implementation and the budget that will go into implementation, or the time that we'll spend on it. So best thing we can do is provide examples from actual showcases where they can share how that project went and what the results were, and often they are very impactful. So that's really cool. That's been extremely useful for us. That also allowed us to do more like marketing material. I have this really nice booklet here that's I guess Danny, our designer, and Chin Lan mostly have been working on. So we finally have like a marketing material that includes the showcases and product details, some geeky geeky information about us. But yeah, that's very
cool page.
To be able just to be able to go to a conference and hand this out to a merchant so they can better understand what Hyvä does and what it can mean for their business is great. Yeah, it's made a huge difference.
Yeah, it's the last ones we printed already are out of date, right? We need to create little inlets because now there's new products and stuff. So yeah,
new products, new showcases. The statistics are updated all of the time, so usually there's some information there about the live stores. And quickly check. Yeah, so we have like the last printed version had like 60 countries, 2,200 live stores, more than 1,000 t-shirts that we spread out at conferences, over 600 agencies, over 400 extensions, over 3,600 developers. And yeah, the numbers that I just mentioned are already higher than the ones in the booklet. So, but yeah, does it make sense to print a new booklet every month? Yeah, but it's very cool. Yeah, and I guess from that, so having Chilan and Anton on board really accelerated the work that we did on the checkouts. And when we arrived in February, we launched early access for the checkouts, and I was able to do that live on stage at Meet Magento Florida. Where
after more than a year of development.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that's also been great to see. Like, it feels over the past year. Of course, we went from early access to the 1.1.0 version for checkout later in the year. And the product really stabilized during that time. We had quite a few releases, and you can see more and more customers that were already using the team also switched to use the checkout. A lot of projects that are now starting fresh that also include the checkout by default. And you just see that some agencies really worked with it. They they adjusted their agency toolbox to Hyvä. Like they've made everything compatible that they need to work with the checkout, and most of the projects just work with checkout out of the box, and there we also see very big results. If you look at out of the box, that our checkout on a mobile device with slow internet connection loads in 3 seconds, and the Luma checkout loads in, was it 60 seconds? It's a 13 time. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that will
let's
be
say
20,
roughly
26
40.
seconds, I think. So
Yeah,
well,
but
depends on so many factors, but takes a long time. I know you measured it, but it depends on so many factors. So still, it's order of magnitude quicker.
Yeah, just the fact
Huge
that
difference.
our checkout loads instantly and doesn't, like, it's just HTML that's being sent, and then what Mage does is just all interactivity that's only active after the first page load when you start interacting with the checkout. So when the page is downloaded and loaded by the browser, it's done. And with Luma checkout, it needs hundreds of files to be downloaded after the page loads. So it's just where all of the delay comes from. So yeah, I think we're still the full potential of the checkout hasn't even been reached yet. I really believe, like, we now have 2 layouts, like a one-step layout and a multi-step layout. I'm sure with extra features that we're adding, also multiple layouts will be really interesting. And the whole ecosystem around the checkout is also now gathering pace, like the amount of integrations that are available is picking up speed.
Yes,
That's
making a big difference.
yeah. Like with the team, it's crucial for a product to work that you have the ecosystem around it. And we've managed to do that with the team. We still say over 450 extensions, but there are extension providers that have almost 100 extensions compatible, just the one vendor. So if we truly did a count, if we went to all of the websites of the extension developers, I'm sure the number would be even a lot higher. And now we need to achieve the same with checkout.
That is true. Yeah, my feeling now really is Hyvä for extension vendors. Hyvä is becoming like the standard. It's not even a question anymore. Like all the big ones are making all their extensions compatible. I think some already have every extension compatible. Some are working on it. Of course, it depends on how many extensions they have. Some have a dozen or two. Some have hundreds. So can't really compare. But they're all on board, and that's really, really cool. I mean, that's something that also shifted during last year, I think, right? When it really started to become obvious.
Yeah.
Hyvä's the way.
Yeah, and very cool to see that you now see extension vendors releasing new extensions that didn't exist on Luma yet, and they are Hyvä by default. So the new standard is just to build whatever they do for Hyvä. And that fact alone is quite crazy. it's quite something that we achieved.
All right. One of my favorite topics. Probably I'm getting on everybody's nerves by talking about it, but I think one of the main one big factor that made that possible is that we really pay a lot of attention to backward compatibility and try to keep not just merchant side working, but also extension vendors from having to do too much work to support Hyvä, because we are updating our theme, every month or two at least. So yeah, it's important that they can build without having to invest undue amount of money, and we do our best to allow that. And same for the checkout, right? So I just looked at the release cadence. So since we released the early access end of February, we had 17 checkout releases in 2023. So different times in between, some bigger, like in July, I think we had the 1.1 release that had some backward incompatible changes, but all the others were backward compatible. And those that have backward incompatible changes, we document them really well and try to educate people how to move forward. And so far, I think that's worked pretty well. And now we hope that this approach will also allow extension vendors to be compatible with Hyvä Checkout out of the box, and all the integrations will choose to integrate directly. We already had quite a number, but of course, compared to the theme, it's a different story at this point in time.
Yeah, it's the main ones that really would drive volume. It's like PayPal, Braintree, Stripe, IGN, Molly for Europe. Those are really, I guess, the biggest ones that if those are all covered, and most of them already are, then the volume that we get from that, like the amount of users, then also like it gets a snowball rolling, and the other payment providers then follow. It was the same with the team when MST, Headworks, and Mirasfit all signed on in the same month. There was one tipping point where they all three sent us a message like, yeah, we're going to officially support Hyvä extensions 2 years ago. And after they announced that and they started to publicly release Hyvä compatible extensions, the whole rest of the market that wasn't convinced yet at that point also stepped on to support Hyvä teams. So, well, it takes a bit from us to get the whole ecosystem going and educate partners and like aid them as best as we can and provide documentation and training so that they can make their payment module compatible. And then once there's a library of existing modules that work, then it's a lot easier for other payment providers to also they can see from those extensions how things work. And also for us, it really helps in maturing the product by helping those first payment. Like we see now with IGN that there's a very specific requirement that they have that required us to do some work to help them. Also the validation of the credit card with iframes that just works slightly different than all of the other payment providers. But yeah, once we accommodate for all of those different cases, then at some point we've covered 99% of the use cases.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
I'm getting a bit of feedback on. I hear myself back after I said stuff. I'm not sure if. Do you happen to? Are you using the microphone from the Mac and the earphones from the AirPods by any chance?
Nope. But let me switch to the other earphones. Test.
Yeah. I don't understand because it said that it was solved. Like now I don't hear myself anymore. Like I don't hear the
Okay.
echo anymore, and then you reload it.
And then Google decided, oh, you have to re-enter your password and re-authenticate just now, every month. And so, okay. Good timing. Thank you, Google.
Perfect. Okay. Well,
Sorry
we'll
about
make a
that.
clean cut out of that. Welcome back. I hope you had a nice toilet break. This episode of
It
Talking
wasn't that
Hyvä
long,
is
dude.
sponsored by Hyvä. No, I mean for the listener.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair. Oh, yes. Definitely. Hope the same.
But
where were we? Yeah.
yeah,
So
we were
all the
talking about the
extension vendors are on
ecosystem
board.
around checkout.
We're
Yeah.
growing. Yeah. That's all good. That's right. Yeah. What else happened?
Well, so chronologically, there were a couple of events that we attended online, I guess. Still, like I think we both spoke at Meet Magento India in the beginning of the year, but both online. And super exciting that this year, 2024, we're both going to India. In a responsible way, of course, because you're going to offset your CO2.
Yeah, that's something that matters deeply to me. So we are taking care of that, and exciting, definitely. Looking forward to being there, seeing all friends again there, and all the new people that I don't know yet, and it's great.
I've never been to Asia before, so
crazy.
It's going to be a very short stay, so I won't be able to experience that much of the country and the culture. Very excited to go there first time.
So cool.
Yeah, and
you know what? This actually reminds me of way back in 2011, I think. I started teaching for Magento U and was traveling a lot with Ben. So, we always spent a week in the US, a week in Europe or somewhere else, back to back, traveling, flying a lot. So this is actually has a bit of, traveling together to an event or to something. It's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm just very excited of the prospect of making a trip together, spending 14 hours on the plane. We have the same flight, so just fun hanging out, talking about more of this stuff.
Yeah, looking
forward to it. Future of eCommerce. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And we went to Manchester. I think that was May already. And we did that by car, by boat. Oh, that was so funny.
Actually, not Manchester. That was London. Meet Magento UK. Wasn't that London?
Titans was in May.
Oh, and Titans, right? We were both.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, we did both. Yeah.
But I was thinking
of
the road trip, and I traveled by train to Titans, but we traveled together to Meet Magento UK. That's why I was thinking of it. Yeah.
That's the confusion that I had. Yeah. I drove. I didn't drive to Titans either. So to Titans, I also flew. You went by train.
Right.
And I went there with Chinlan. Willem Borgman was there. John hadn't joined us yet, but he was there. Yeah, it's very nice. We had our booth stacked with very cool t-shirts. One was one of the best shirts that we had, I think. The Titans one is inspired by NBA sport tops.
That's right. That was fun.
Yeah,
that was a nice one. I like the way you always you and Danny designed the t-shirts for each event to be very specific for each event. That was really cool.
Yeah, Titans just really had a association for me with the US basketball team.
It does.
For UK, we also had nice shirts that were London themed, some icons on it, big smiley, or our trademark Hyvä smiley, quite big and orange. Yeah. Manchester was nice. I really enjoyed. It was the first time that I went to Mage Titans in Manchester. I had only been in the Netherlands before, but the vibe was very much the same. I really liked that they only had one track, and it's developer focused. But there were a couple of talks. Dyke was very funny. Dyke is usually just like a bit of life story or life lesson in there, and just a bit of craziness, but funny and thought-provoking. Rebecca Brockton was on stage talking about mental health, or
that was a nice one, nice talk.
Work-life balance, yeah. Yeah, a lot of familiar faces on stage. It was a really old school get-together with a lot of, I can't say old-timers, OGs. So we talked about it this week.
Original generation.
Generation, whatever. Friends that we've known for many years. That's the best way to put it, I guess.
And some new ones too, always. So that's always great to see some fresh blood coming to events.
Absolutely.
Really
UK in general is just a really strong Magento country. It's one of the countries where we have the most engagement, the most customers, a lot of agencies, old and new, some that I never heard of before I joined or when I created Hyvä. Some of the really upcoming. It's it's not without reason that we hired a couple of UK people later in the year, which I guess we can fast forward a bit to around July. When did we hire John? And then immediately after Ryan, there was 1 month in between. I guess it was July and August.
I know John started beginning of September, I think, for real. Like we hired him a month or two before, and then he started in September. Yeah. And Ryan, I think October, about the same time. Yeah. At roughly at the same time,
Yeah, and they work full time on enterprise, which John is kind of taking the lead, and he's the VP product owner, and Ryan quickly joined, who he already had experience with building enterprise stuff. Like he worked on Sensei a lot when he worked at Aware Digital in the UK, one of our partner agencies, and then he switched jobs where he got really unhappy, and then decided he wanted to work with Hyvä more, so he joined us, and then he could finish his Adobe Sensei compatibility, and a lot more.
And more. So those two, just from my side there, it's been super impressive to see how quickly they managed to really take ownership and complete the product. It was amazing. So I just checked the first 001 tag on the whole enterprise suite was made beginning of September, so right after John joined. And I don't remember, when did we have the first early access for September? No, October, you said, right?
October, yeah. So
amazing. So just in a month, basically, or 1.5 months, he got the whole thing into shape with Ryan's help, and there have been many releases since, and that's really amazing. So we've got almost everything covered already, and just like we're talking about last year, so let's not go to this year's achievements yet.
Well, I think they had a flying start because, of course, we had a lot of contributions that John immediately shifted through, and he immediately split out things that that we could more or less use in that current state. I think pretty much everything we already had has been refactored by now, but some things just immediately went to a 0.0.1 release because they were functional the way they were. So we packaged it up, and then they spent a lot of time first refactoring things, just making sure that different pieces and modules were consistent. So if there's a customer account grid, they're all working according to the same Hyvä concepts, let's say. And then they started filling in the gaps because a lot of the compatibility modules were missing at least half of the features, and then a lot of things were never worked on before.
Yeah, that's true. So the existing stuff, of course, it helped a lot, but still, I'm amazed in how quickly they were able to take that and just bring all of them to a new level. I'm super happy.
It's just super structured, and they have a release cycle of almost a week. Like there's a update post that John puts out every Friday on Slack in the enterprise channel, and he lists out everything that has been done in that week, and it's extensive. Like it's impressive just from week to week how much work has been done. Now they're working on checkout integration. Well, I guess then I'm doing the same as you. I'm talking about 2024 stuff, but yeah, that's what they moved on to doing early this year. But yeah, enterprise has been shaped up really quickly. It's officially still in early access, so things have a 0 point something tag because things could still get a big refactor, but everything that's published is stable. A lot of features are covered. Also, the feature matrix with all of the features, like we have a feature matrix for the team, for checkout, and for enterprise. Try to keep them up to date. They're available through our website. Yeah, you can see the amount of features that are currently covered by enterprise, and it's a lot. Like I think pretty much all of the B2B stuff is covered. That was the first thing that was the highest demand for B2B features, so they finished those first, and now they're quite far through all of the B2C or the regular commerce capabilities. So very, very excited about the progress that has been made there. Yeah.
Right. So when was Manchester? In May, right? And when was Meet Magento UK?
Not long after, in July.
Not long after, in July. Okay, yeah, because that's when.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what did we release in July?
Well, Hyvä UI in July. Yeah, that was surprising. You go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm doing all
this
of
new
the talking,
product we
but
built, right? I'm sorry, I need to. So we built this product, long time, lots of investment. Yeah, it's going to be revolutionary in helping people build quicker sites more quickly, and shorten go-to-market and make working with Hyvä even more fun. Building a UI library with Hyvä components that people can just drop into an Hyvä theme and customize it, and then go from there. Kickstart, bootstrap any kind of e-commerce site. So, okay, I'll shut up. You talk more.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, you're free. You're free to talk. But I guess the funny thing there is that we put so much time in the release plan, like the product side, pricing. Like we ran so many calculations of investment versus return, and like what the margin, what I think the most difficult thing for me, the most difficult thing about our business is just pricing stuff, because margins and everything. What's the volume that we'll do? What's acceptable? What's reasonable? What fits like the Hyvä ideology? Like should be accessible for as much as possible, much people as possible. And with UI, it was just a really difficult topic because on the one hand, we wanted to just everyone to use it. On the other hand, we had invested almost more in UI than in the team by that point, because when Frank joined Hyvä in July 2022, is that correct? I think so. He started working on UI full time. Is it 2021? Yeah, 2021.
2021, yeah, I think
Yeah.
2021.
He almost worked in UI full time since then, and I had been working on it. And now we also have Sean van Zuidam, Dutch front-end developer, working full time on it. We have a designer, Danny, who put so much time in meticulously designing all of the UI components to make sure it's consistent, and there's a whole design system in Figma that agencies and merchants can use to build their own designs. And the investment was big. And then we prepared the whole release. We had the product page done and all of the pricing. We kind of tested with some of our partners and customers, like, what do you think of the pricing? And the one photo was too cheap, the other photo was way too expensive, and there was just not one consensus. Like there wasn't a sweet spot until we realized that the sweet spot was just to add it with the team and use the investments, merge it with the team, and just have one kick-ass product that is as versatile as it could be. UI making Hyvä team even more powerful and more accessible to lower and mid markets. You can see that people can build a store even quicker now. They can just choose what headers and footers and swatches and galleries. We released, in the last release, we had 4 different galleries, which was the most requested thing from developers on a Slack. Like, okay, I want to have a zoom effect on my gallery, or I want to have like navigation buttons, or I want to disable them easily, or I want to have like just images that I can scroll through, or animations and all of that stuff that either required customization, or just as simple as I want to have the thumbnails on the left side instead of
that was a lot
the main
vertical
image.
Yeah,
so many people asking for that. While it's just a couple of CSS lines of CSS to make the change, but for someone just starting out with Hyvä and with Tailwind, it's one of the first things that they needed to customize, and one of the most requested things in support. So now we have very different galleries that like serve a whole different use case, that are all very versatile. Like they have a lot of configuration options. You can turn off like the arrows and in thumbnails and zoom effects and everything. So that's extremely powerful. And in the end, it helps us bring Hyvä to a wider audience, and that works just as well as Hyvä UI being a separate product. But it was funny because we decided this maybe 2 days before Meet Magento UK, and we had planned to launch it at Meet Magento UK during my presentation. So we needed to like rework the product page, and like somehow we have a product page, but it just says that it's a free product that comes with the team now. It's a big product in itself. Like it's built as a separate product, so it can use that product page with all of the information. And I think
lots of components, right? It's not just gallery. It's how many? Well, different types. Let's not say something wrong, but dozens.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to hyvä.io and you click on Hyvä UI in the menu, you can quickly get an overview. There's later in the year, we released the Figma designs, so they are publicly available in Figma community, which was a big shift. And of course, first our idea was like, we have to kind of put a gate around access to both the code and Figma, and then we needed to make it accessible to anyone that has a team license. So we ship designs as a downloadable file with the code, but then we got a lot of questions from product managers and designers like, where can I get the Figma file? And it's kind of a stupid response to say, well, ask your developer because he has it. He downloaded the UI package and the Figma file is there. So it just made a lot more sense for people to be able to just browse all of them in Figma and already get started on a design before officially starting off the project. And you can see from the product page, there's also a PDF with all of the components. And there's not
I appreciate I don't have use Figma developer here, so I use the PDF.
Yeah, but it's extensive. Like we have content elements that you can also paste into the CMS with this real-time or like just-in-time Tailwind compilation that just generates any Tailwind CSS if you paste stuff into the admin, which you released, you worked on almost 2 years ago already. That works really well. So it just allows anyone to paste HTML with Tailwind into the admin, and it just works on the front end, which also makes it really performant because you're not putting all of that CSS in a style sheet that you only need on one page. So it kind of makes it efficient. But yeah, product details, accordions, tabs on the product page, different swatch designs, product data and different layouts, and different design for reviews, headers, menus, call to actions, FAQs, accordions, footers. It's a lot, and like we have ongoing. Danny, our designers, like continuously working on new elements. Like now we're working on a 404 page and order success page, which are very easy to customize, but often they're the lowest on priority list. And so it's very often just plain old Magento's default stuff. So we're pimping those a little bit. Yeah, it's just a continuous effort, and we have both Frank and Sean working on improvements and new components for the UI. So it's really one of the main pillars or main products of the company that only gets better with every release. So that's really cool. Yeah, right. I was thinking when earlier I said that we traveled together to Mage Titans by car, but it was Meet Magento UK. I remembered how we wanted to take the train, but there were no tickets.
Yeah, the Eurostar with the car, yeah.
Yeah.
And we couldn't. It's like we had to turn around at the terminal and like, oh no, what are we gonna do now? But the ferry was no problem, thankfully.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool that we can go to the UK even though it's no longer Europe. Traveling there is quite easy, and you can take a train that just goes under the ocean. But you can also put your car on the train under the ocean and travel there quite quickly. And last year I just drove there and I was on my own, like in 2022. I went to Meet Magento UK by myself with the car, with my roll-up banners and the t-shirts and just a couple of boxes stacked in the back of the car.
And I wanted to come, but I couldn't because I had COVID.
Yeah. you had to
I was
cancel like
pretty
just
sick.
the day before. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt really sorry.
Wow, well, it was out of your
Yeah, shit happens. So yeah.
But I was lucky that time I could just drive to the train and I could just like on board within half an hour. And now we got there and it's like, did you book online? No, we'll just take the entrance fee here. I'll just buy a ticket now. Oh, well, we're fully booked for the whole day. And then we were quite lucky that we could drive for 30 minutes and get on the boat and take the ferry to the UK. That was adventurous. And then we arrived at the pre-party at the exact moment that they were taking the picture. It was funny because the photographer was already standing on a table in an alley outside before the bar. Everyone is ready, like the 3, 2, 1, say cheese, and we arrived at that exact moment.
That was epic. That was fun.
Yeah.
True. Nice moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was. I'm gonna continue to do the quiz style questions. What happened in September? What
In
was
September?
the big thing in September?
Okay. I've got something first. What happened in August?
So this probably is for I guess
Probably the same thing.
you have late August, I have early September because that's when we started to do the announcements, but probably the release was in August.
Yeah, late August, 31st. Actually, so close enough. Yeah, we had one release of the theme.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you think of the same thing,
Yeah.
which was huge. So it's the 1.3 Hyvä release that was a big effort in regards to accessibility, and our partner agency, Snowdog from Poland, was essential in allowing us to do that release. So they put in so much work and contributed so much. We are immensely grateful. They're super professional and really know what they're doing, and they helped us really bring Hyvä, getting it ready to, the thing with accessibility is it always depends on each implementation. So we can just prepare everything so it's ready, and then the actual implementation and certification has to be done on a site if needed. But we're in really good shape now. So by default, Hyvä is what's it called?
WCAG triple A.
Yeah, ready. So that's really good, and we continue to work on that. But they, that was a really important release that we eventually, grateful for the opportunity to work with them there. And there was, that was
big shout out to Anna Caron.
Yes.
She led the initiative with a lot of help of multiple colleagues, and it's an understatement to say that they helped us. Like they really carried the whole thing, and we helped them to contribute it to us. Like we assisted, and of course we did a lot of code reviews, and we kind of checked whether what they suggested fit the Hyvä ideology from a technical perspective, but they provided all of the insights and the proposed solutions for all of the issues. So we had a huge report with different classifications of like the priority of a fix, like how crucial they were. So we worked us off from high priority to mid and then low priority. Frank, our front-end developer, did a huge amount of reviews there, and but we wouldn't have been able to do any of this without Snowdog. So that investment from their end was crucial. Very big.
It was great.
And really brought the team to a whole new level. Like
yes.
Yeah.
And everything new that we build, of course, now already, we apply all the learning from that project directly. So we want to keep it at the high level that we were able to bring it to. And that's great. That's really cool. So in total, we had 12 theme releases, by the way, in 2023. So not all of them were that big. So 1.3 actually upgrading to an existing theme to include all this accessibility improvements would require some degree of work. So we strive to make most updates easier, but it really depends, right? So there we some of the HTML structure had to be changed and labels added, and that just means going into the templates and changing stuff. But now every new site, of course, already starts from there, so that's good.
Yeah, the upgrade impact from 1.2 to 1.3 was substantial if you wanted to have all of the accessibility improvements. But as a merchant or agency facing that challenge, just the fact that you could have like the whole changelog and the whole diff, the differences between 1.2 1.3, if you could just go through what we changed and what applies for your project, that's already hugely helpful, I think. It was definitely the highest impact upgrade that we had so far. I think 1.1, 1.2, 1.1 to 1.2 we dealt with very gracefully because we had this upgrade tool. The major thing there was changing Alpine and Tailwind from version 2 to version 3. They both had backward incompatible changes in that upgrade, in those libraries. So we were forced to also make breaking changes in the team when we did that. But then you wrote a very extensive CLI script, or a node script actually, that automates all of the changes that were required for those library updates.
Well, most of them, so not all of them. But
I tested multiple instances where it was just working with the script that you wrote. So there will always have been exceptions where some things need to be checked.
I mean, it's JavaScript. You can't automatically refactor any JavaScript with a meaningful amount of certainty. And anyway, people can build crazy shit, and just understanding that and helping them along. But I think about 80% should have just worked, and others still needed to do a few tweaks, which were documented too. So, it was much easier just to go from one to the other. That's right. But that wasn't last year. I think that was the year before. Yeah, that was a 2022 update. So, Yep, that was great. And I'm really happy we have that, because that, of course, allows us to be much more useful in the States, especially in the United States, and also in more and more European countries. Accessibility is becoming a requirement.
Absolutely.
A good thing too. So we're happy we're in place and all set.
Yeah, officially in most European countries, it is already a requirement today, but they're not enforcing it. So they're you can't be fined yet, but that will change. I think in the Netherlands, it's this or next year.
I think it's this year,
start
actually.
Enforcing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So soon.
So super relevant. Yeah. So that was late August. You said there was 16 team releases last year?
12.
And
that's not counting. So once we released 1.3, every time we make 1.3 release that contains, let's say, a new method in our JavaScript library. It's a very, very small library, but still, we also port them back and make a new 1.2 release. But those I did count those. I just counted the real, releases, just to make it easier for extension vendors to write a module that works on either 1.2 Hyvä-based themes and also 1.3 Hyvä-based themes. They don't have to distinguish one release for that kind of Hyvä site, one release for that. They just write once and works everywhere. We want to try to keep it that way. That's why we're also still kind of backporting features like that to older releases. Yeah.
What are other substantial things that we released on the team last year that come to mind? I mean, at some point there were just a lot of incremental updates, just fine-tuning things, small bug fixes. So overall, it just became a lot more robust.
I need to look at the changelog.
It's not that important.
It's cheating.
It's well documented. I mean,
bunch of
anyone
stuff.
can go to docs.hyvä.io and see the full changelog and upgrade instructions.
We had JavaScript validation library in there. Lots of stuff in there. It's been continuously improved since the initial release. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, lots of continuous improvements. Like every release has 1 or 2 new features, a couple of bug fixes, maybe some other maybe library updates. So it's a continuous improvement. Yeah. I can't really pick out specific big new features that are noteworthy right now. Without reading through the whole changelog here.
Yeah, without doubt, accessibility was the big release for the team last year. And UI, we had 2 big releases. So in July, we had the first release. And then in December, we had the first big release that came after that, apart from some bug fix releases, very minor releases that we had in the meantime. In December, we launched like the big update with new components, and the Figma design file public checkout. We had both the early access, as we said, in February, and then the global availability. So the 1.0 version in October. We launched that in New York. We also were there. So me, John, Chilan, and Sana were in New York. And in my presentation, pretty sure it was there that I announced early access for enterprise and the global availability for checkouts. So the early access for enterprise was released that month. And I think today we're quite close to dropping the early access from enterprise with the amount of feature. I mean, I think there's a couple of refactors that John still had in mind. So a lot of the packages are still tagged 0 point something. And we're not tagging them 1.0 until we feel that we're sure that there's no big refactors coming anymore. But
to be fair, those refactors aren't that big, right? It's more, okay, once we have, let's say, a generic grid in the theme, then we'll just switch the enterprise modules to use that, right? To prevent a potential. So it's minor from my perspective. It's nothing big really. But I like the idea of only tagging something as stable when it's probably not going to change anymore. So that's good.
Yeah.
One thing I want to point out, because you asked for features, I was looking through the changelog, I couldn't help myself. And one thing that happened last year really is that mobile Safari is becoming the new Internet Explorer. We had several bug fixes, actually workarounds for bugs in mobile Safari, for HTTP. The stuff they do slightly differently. They dispatch the load event way earlier if that's cached in the HTTP cache, for example, or the double click issue. The first click just is focusing, the second click then actually activates it, and stuff like that. So we had to add a couple of workarounds to make that work seamlessly again. It hasn't been that way in a long time, and well, that's new.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't get much worse than this, because you're right, like all of the strange quirky things that we encountered last year came from reports on especially mobile Safari.
Yeah.
customer section data misfiring, and
Right, that was the load event on cache pages, yeah. Stuff like that.
the minimal height, like the side panel when you, like, if you open the cart, that forced the menu button. If you close the cart again, the menu button would have shifted down to a different position. And if we change the min height on the cart from percentage to a different
just a different unit.
unit, then it was solved.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not gonna spend much more time on that just because of a browser quirk. So you'll just go with a workaround, and that just
and sometimes
gives
you don't have a choice.
Yeah, it's
hopefully not more needed.
Yeah, just not great to go back to those good old Internet Explorer 6, 7, 8 days where you had multiple versions of one piece of code just to please a browser.
Oh, right.
Those were the days.
Maybe we already reached peak browser. So it's like everything could be the same for a couple of years, and now everything's
degenerate for me. Like it's only going downhill from here.
Who knows? We'll see.
Well, with all of these JavaScript frameworks, they're doing a good job in burning front-end developments down to an unworkable situation. I think what has been interesting in the last year is to see that sentiment shifted, and there's been way more pushback to this whole revolution. I even, like in my talk in November at Meet Magento Netherlands, I dropped the new tagline of Evolutionary eCommerce, as Hyvä being not revolutionizing, like going with this whole JavaScript revolution where everything needs to be a framework based on JavaScript. It's just using a sane approach, not necessarily going with composable and microservices just because everyone's saying that you should. And a lot of people coming back finding out that solution often is not the right one if you have issues maintaining one system. Sometimes it's an even bigger problem if you do it on 12 systems, and then you need to maintain and pay and upgrade 12 systems that just don't really play nicely together. And also in different ecosystems, you see that the monolith is gaining traction again, and people realizing that the experience that we're building on and the technologies that have been proven itself and have been in development for a decade aren't that bad as people wanted us to believe to be. A lot of shade being thrown around React as a framework or library, and things getting overcomplicated and the wrong priorities being set by the core team, and just introducing all of this new stuff that doesn't really make the framework better or easier to understand, where our main focus has always been build on the things that we have that are good, try to reduce everything that's overcomplicated, simplify, and just build the right tooling around a good product. And it's quite cool that it pays off, and that the whole ideology, we've been so vigilant in protecting that, what you said, like backwards compatibility, like not making developers struggle with learning new stuff with every release, and like breaking changes that they need to chase, and tell a merchant that they're gonna need extra budget because something that used to work for the past 3 years now suddenly doesn't work anymore. We just try to reduce that pain as much as possible, while also staying up to date and like keeping vital and modern, and product that's in development and up to date. So,
but that's also possible because we value simplicity, the good side of simplicity, right? Keeping things simple enough that they fit into one head, into one mind,
yeah.
right? Everything at the same time. That's useful.
Yeah, often the case is made that if you want to have a real rich user experience, you can't do it with plain browser. Like Alpine isn't versatile enough, and like things get too complicated quickly. And like if you want to build a really rich user experience, also mobile, you need to use Vue or React. That's the argument that's being made. And even today, we saw a store go live that sells running shoes, and it was impressive. It was fast, it was snappy, and the user interface was really nicely done. Like a lot of nice animations that were not over the top, but made it tasteful and easy to access, and beautiful gallery with images, and like it.
Well
it was
done.
honestly one of the best implementations that I've seen on Hyvä, and I dare to say on Magento as a whole. So it makes me think of the first time that I demoed Hyvä at Reacticon in 2021, like the alpha version, just the first announcement, and it was fast, like 100 points in page speed or Lighthouse, and just the whole promise was there, but it was bare minimal. Like it had simple products, and I think I had just finished configurables, but not the other product types, and a lot of things weren't there yet, like sliders and a lot of features that I hadn't built in yet. And after release, of course, there was quite some discussions going on Twitter and people being enthusiastic, but then also people like Brandon Falkowski, one of the big Magento community heroes that has been one of the leading examples on front-end development on Magento. He was one of the people that doubted that it would still be performant and do everything that it would need to do if it would support all of the features that Luma comes with, or PWA Studio. Like, okay, sure, it's fast, but it's only simple products. Just wait until you build bundled or group products. And then all of the complexity, or when you add custom attributes. And like with every release, like every extra feature that I built in before I did the first 1.0 release, which I built pretty much on my own, I was so vigilant keeping the performance as it was with the first demo. And now with a product that so many people are working on, we're 12 people now and soon to be 14. It's just really cool to see that we've managed to maintain. We kept that intact. Like we built so much on top of it, the whole ecosystem, additional products, everything still built on the same premise and core principle. And it's still beating the other solutions that were the promise for performance and improved DX and everything. And they're still catching up with their promises and what we've achieved with Hyvä. So it's amazing.
Yeah, I think that was an interesting loop the whole industry took.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, we have to build JavaScript apps instead of websites. Loop. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are use cases, but rare.
Absolutely.
So, anyway.
Yeah. I think 2024, it feels like this year will be more balanced, like a more sane argument to be had between what kind of solution to choose. And I think there's a lot less of this false promise or premise of what a solution offers. It's a lot clearer now, like when it makes sense to do or do not use microservices and composable and headless. And we've made the point, we've argued that just the fact that your e-commerce front end and back end are coupled doesn't mean that it's then not composable anymore, because all of the other things can still be composable. You can still have your emailing program, you have your ERP, you have stock coming from your ERP, pricing from ERP, and then you have a PIM for your product data, and you have a marketing engine and search external, and payment can be completely offloaded to something like an external checkout page. That's as composable as it gets. It's just like it's very sane to have a more tight coupling between an e-commerce backend and front end. And very often it's a lot harder to build a front end that's exchangeable, like that you can swap out backends. It's just very complicated to do.
Not really a thing, as it turns out. Not really.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. Looking forward to doing one of these in 12 months.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot of plans for 2024.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this year. We're going to see the standalone version of the checkout, which we can offer to the whole Magento ecosystem, not just the ones already using Hyvä. Enterprise is maturing rapidly. There's a very big market that we can address there. There's been so much demand for enterprise. And it feels like we still just touched the surface with what we can reach with the team and with what we're doing with UI and how rich that's becoming and how easy it's becoming to compete with a SaaS build, just like the recurring cost, like the upfront cost of building a Hyvä team will be so low that it becomes really attractive not to go with a SaaS and pay your monthly revenue or your monthly rev share. Yeah. So we already see, like, of course, I see from sites going live, we can see the history where people are coming from. It's a very mixed bag, whether they're coming from existing Magento 2 or Magento 1 or Shopify or BigCommerce, sometimes Shopware. It's coming from all directions, and that's interesting to see.
Yeah. Must be
I think the big highlights that I had in mind for 2023, we've touched on all of those.
There was one thing that stands out in my memory, which is in August, we had all hands where at the time we were 12 people, if I remember correctly.
Get together.
But John wasn't able to come because he was on vacation. But everybody else came together in person for a couple of days, and that was pretty amazing. That was a real milestone for me. It looked like a big step. So that was very cool.
Yeah,
so many people.
I remember
amazing,
that
right? All working with Hyvä, for Hyvä.
We were both cooling down from sauna late in the evening, you and me, while we heard our colleagues talking and laughing in the back, making jokes, playing a game, just having a good time. And it was such a vibe during that weekend or that get together. And we were just taking it in, like taking in the laughter and enjoyment that we heard from our people. And it's like, this is us. Like, this is we have a responsibility towards these people, and they they really have a vibe and a synergy, and it's an amazing group of people together. And what we're achieving as a group is very cool. And we have a lot of fun internally. Just a light-hearted group of people trying to make a difference for the e-commerce world.
Yep, that's us. You're right.
E-commerce made happy. Yeah. Okay,
Wonderful.
this was a lot of fun. I enjoy just taking a moment to look back and kind of celebrate what we've achieved.
And long. Over an hour. Can't see how long the recording is, but here we are.
If we're lucky, it worked. We have the recording.
And if
We
not,
only need to cut
then
out the
it's-
piece.
Then it's okay.
Yeah. Very
was fun,
nice.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I enjoyed this a lot. Thanks a lot for your time. And I'll see you tomorrow.
You. See you tomorrow.
Thank you all for listening. And see you next time at a
See you
conference.
soon.
Yeah, you can see it loud. So we will be at the Webwinkel Vakdagen, the yearly expo, e-commerce expo in the Netherlands next week. So that's January 23rd, 24th, I think. Sanne and Chilan will be at Meet Magento Florida at the end of the month. And you and me will be at Meet Magento India. So, and there will be plenty of other occasions later in the year, but these are the ones that we've currently planned and booked. And
right.
we would love to see any of you there. It's one of the greatest pleasures of doing what we do is coming to a conference and just talk to people that are using our product, giving us good and bad feedback and just ideas and usually we have some nice gifts with us. So we'd love to see you there. And otherwise, talk to you online. Bye.
Yes. Bye.